what is genre and how does it fit into the skills you're developing on this module? Genre is all about categorizing things according to conventions. Conventions are simply processes or actions that we as a society have agreed over time mean something. You certainly don't have to be a communication or media whiz to recognise them. We all do. That's why when we hear the words once upon a time as a child, we get to know that we're about to hear a fairy tale or other fictional story, not a true story about the person who's telling it to us, for example. It's why we don't get frustrated when the story doesn't get tied up at the end of a Hollyoaks episode, because we know it's a long-running drama with cliffhangers to bring us back to watch next time. As well as being distinct from each other due to their conventions, genres are often also distinct in terms of who they're aimed at. They might be aimed at younger or older people, for example, or women rather than men, or vice versa, or people with a particular interest or outlook. It's not as simple as that, though. We also need to take into account who actually reads, watches, and listens to them. Not every millennial young woman a particular show is aimed at will watch it, and older women and men might also watch it, even though it wasn't aimed at them. These things are dynamic. For example, if you are a young woman who reads women's magazines, do any of your male friends or housemates ever take a look too? Genres are also distinct in terms of the function they serve. For example, the BBC is a relatively well-respected provider of news, and we engage with it on that basis. If we happen to watch Newsround, we don't get angry that we're being patronised because we know its function is to simplify the news for younger audiences. In that sense, both audience and function are relevant to our considerations of it. Let's also consider the Ulster Fry. Brilliant, right? As well as being brilliant though, we don't go to it for news in the same way as we go to the BBC for news. We know that it is satire, so we may well enjoy consuming it for its implicit commentary on the news, as well as its basic comedic function, but we won't expect serious news from it. A good way of getting your head round all of this is to consider what happens if an audience doesn't recognise the conventions or function of a genre, as in they haven't accepted them yet, which is how a convention becomes a convention. People accept it and agree on it. If that happens, the genre won't work the way it is planned. Do a search for Orson Welles' War of the Worlds 1938 radio drama, and you'll see what I mean. Maybe even pause the video and do that now, so that you don't forget about it. You'll already have noticed that this whole genre thing isn't maybe as simple as the initial definition might suggest it is. There's more to think about than single written pieces in single genres. You will often find genres within genres. For example, taking the Young Women's Magazine example, the magazine itself is a genre, but that genre contains a number of other genres, such as real-life stories, beauty how-tos, problem pages, and adverts. A direct mail, one of the genres you'll learn how to write on this module, sometimes contains a brief personal story within the broader letter genre to illustrate someone's experience with a product or service, or their experience of having been supported by a charity. A newsletter obviously needs part of its content to be news items, hence the name, but the best approach to newsletters is to include a range of material. And exactly what this range consists of can be flexible, depending on the business or organisation you're writing on behalf of, and the audience you're writing for. Moving our focus back to writing individual pieces of written communication, you might wonder whether it's important that your writing sticks rigidly to a specific genre. Well, again, it's not a simple answer. In this module, you're being enabled to and assessed on developing your skills of writing in various genres for the communication industries. The answer to the questions is different for different ones of these. For press releases, for example, you absolutely must stick rigidly to a specific genre. Certain conventions must be fulfilled and certain functions must be achieved, or journalists will be unlikely to even look at your press release. For other forms of written communication, genre can be applied more loosely. You will often see genre mixing, especially when writers or media producers are trying to do something original or outside the box. Once this has been done a number of times and becomes a recognisable convention, remember that word from earlier, we get new hybrid genres. Think about blogs and vlogs. In a very simple sense, blogs are a written piece in a conversational style, and in that sense, mixing styles. And their name comes from the term weblog, so putting a record of events genre into a different channel, the online channel. But now they can incorporate a wide range of different genres. For example, journal, review, how-to, comedy, suspense. Vlogs add video into the mix, and the genre mixing pushes on even further. Most of you guys have grown up with blogs and vlogs, but I didn't. Why not pause the video and look a bit further into when they first appeared and how they developed? Reflect on the experience of someone seeing a blog or vlog for the first time when it wasn't an established genre with established conventions. Sometimes writers or media producers don't want to produce a brand new genre, but they do want to do something original or make a big point with a small or short piece. In this case, they might use what we call intertextuality. This is especially useful in advertising and something for you to bear in mind when we come to explore how to write copy for radio ads. I'm going to use a couple of image-led examples because the intertextuality is easy to see in them, but we'll explore much more about word-led intertextuality when we come to explore radio ad copywriting. A text can use a specific allusion to another text, where you can actually pinpoint what that text is. Do you recognise the allusion Monsoon are making here? It's to the 1999 film American Beauty, so you might not. Your parents very likely would, though. Using this dated example reminds us that we need to be mindful of our target audience when we use intertextuality to ensure they will get it. The flip side of that is that you can encourage consumers to feel very much part of your brand team if they do get it. So sometimes a slightly obscure reference that you know some people will get is worth using to get them on board. Another form of intertextuality is to draw on another genre in something called role borrowing. To move away from advertising for a moment, check out these Ulster Fry mock-ups of Ladybird books. By doing this, they encourage the audience to bring to the topic at hand all sorts of nostalgic and emotive and comedic associations from Ladybird books. Using a genre originally aimed at children, and in that sense, saying things so simply, also allows the writers to highlight the illogical nature of some of the norms and behaviours of Northern Ireland. It also allows them to pass comment on the function of the original books themselves, which perhaps gave us a limited view of the world around us. In that sense, intertextuality is a very economic thing to do. You can achieve a lot with a little. It's common for intertextuality to be used for critique or parody, but it can also pay homage. You need to be very careful about copyright if you use intertextuality. You must ensure that you're drawing on the other text and making it your own, not copying it and claiming it as your own. It's a bit like the dangers of plagiarism in that sense. I'd like you to pause the video and carry out a wee task to help reinforce your understanding of what intertextuality is and what it does. So, how did you get on? It was probably trickier to find an example of something written rather than image-led, but hopefully it got you thinking and will help you recognise intertextuality around you as you go about your day. You might have noticed from a lot of what I'm saying here that a lot of genre boundary pushing goes on. Not with very set genres like press releases, but a fair bit with some others. One genre that's really known for pushing the boundaries of genre is advertising. Think about it. When was the last time you saw an ad that was simply an ad? Almost always, ads draw on other genres, in a rule-borrowing sense, and in a way try to be what they're not. This makes sense, since it mightn't be the best idea in the world to flag to people that you're trying to get them to buy something. It's interesting to look at how different brands have approached this, though, and how it has developed over time. If you look at traditional ads from, say, the 1950s to the 1980s, you'll notice that they're pretty straightforwardly being what they are, ads. Then we see some changes coming in. One change is that some brands really went for it and upped their production values, creating adverts that were stunning and eye-catching. Think about some of the Guinness television adverts. They look more like short films than adverts, and some of them had the budget to match. Then we have Cadbury's, who really made an impact with something we would call a not ad. It's an ad for a product that says nothing about the product explicitly. It's designed to get people talking and in turn get them talking about the brand and checking out the products. If you look hard enough, you will see something about Cadbury's in these ads, something more abstract about the joy that's brought by consuming the products. Some brands have chosen to either reject this boundary pushing approach or step away from it if they have been doing it. I love Ronseal for this. They have trademarked the phrase, does exactly what it says on the tin. And they pride themselves on their ads being super simple problem solution ads. I need to protect my deck. Here is some deck protector stain. I'm buying it and staining my deck with it, sort of thing. And then we have the approach of Old Spice and other brands who have followed suit. They point directly to the fact that they are ads, but they do it knowingly or ironically. They're different from Ronseal because they're not just stating it simply. They're doing all the fancy stuff to get people talking, but then they're saying, ha, we know we're doing this and that you won't really be taken in because you're also media savvy these days, but then again, we know you'll still buy our products, sort of thing. It seems to me that a lot of this genre boundary pushing is related to trying to shift target audience or capture a demographic that you haven't captured before. Guinness was an old man's drink before it rebranded with its stunning cinematic ads, and Old Spice was an old man's scent before it went all knowing and ironic to speak to a younger audience. So the short version of this whole conversation is, an advert is never just an advert. Finally, sometimes you'll be writing in one genre and hoping that another genre will pick up on what you've done. In this case, you might write with the other genre in mind. Not role borrowing from it and pretending to be it, but just bearing it in mind and including elements that would fit well with it. For example, think about political speeches. Have you noticed that speechwriters often use sound bites, short, pithy phrases or taglines that are often picked up by news and social media? This is not a coincidence. They are written precisely for that purpose. You have to be very, very careful with this type of thing, of course. Say the wrong thing or something that doesn't fit with your actions and boom, there'll be a meme all over social media taking the mickey out of you. I'm sure you'll agree that what we've found out here, as we've explored genre, is that a genre is never just a genre. Reflect on my closing thought, which will help you make your writing the best it can be when the time comes. I hope you're looking forward to getting stuck into learning how to write in all these different genres in a couple of weeks.